78 yards, 3 touchdowns. Why isn't his name in the MVP conversation like we're talking about Patrick Mahomes?
Yeah, Jay Will, it should be. He was the best player on the field yesterday. And what Tennessee can do is they can throw it over your head. And you look at 2 big passes to A.J. Brown as well as Corey Davis for 37 yards to Corey Davis. And what Tennessee can do is they can really spread you out because Tannehill can get the ball down the field. And then you let Derrick Henry go to work. 3 touchdowns yesterday. And maybe the other player that should be in the MVP candidates discussion should be DeForest Buckner. The Colts give up double yards per carry when he's not on the field. So Derrick Henry was the best player on the field. Tannehill was a great compliment with deep passes. And the Colts cannot stop the run without DeForest Buckner.
What should we make of this Jalen Hurts taking reps with the first team?
Key, best players play. And right now, Carson Wentz remarkably is struggling with confidence. You know, we go back a week ago to that pick 6 against Cleveland. That play, to be exemplified what's wrong with Carson Wentz. He lacks confidence. Earlier in that play, he had a player wide open down the seam. He couldn't pull the trigger. And maybe competition at practice will spark him. And I think tonight is truly a watershed moment. He has to play better. He's on national TV. He's going against a terrible defense in Seattle. This is a great opportunity for him. I think what Doug Peterson is right. The best players should play.
Mike, what do you make of the whole Ravens situation?
Well, again, when you juxtapose what's going on with Denver, I think they got it right, which is the league is at least giving them a couple days to see who tested positive, who's going to be in quarantine. Now, look, one door closes, Lamar Jackson's going to be out, another door opens, RG3. I'm sure in the back of RG3's mind, Jay Will, he's saying to himself, I deserve to be a starting quarterback in the NFL. And could you imagine if tomorrow night, with all these backups, missing players like Mark Andrews and countless others, if RG3 goes into Pittsburgh against an undefeated team and comes out with a win, do you realize the amount of money he can make and change the narrative of his career, that maybe he could be a starter again? So those are the storylines that I love about our game. And that's why I think tomorrow night will be really interesting. Let's get RG3's A game and let's see what happens. I think Coach Fangio has it right. There's 2 aspects here. One is your quarterbacks. As Key knows, Coach Parcells always talks about quarterback. I want battlefield commanders. I want guys that are going to absorb blame and deflect credit. And that's exactly what didn't happen over the last 72 hours. I like what Drew Lock finally said yesterday afternoon, but the rules are the rules. And I'm sure the league looked at this, and while on one hand, guys, they were disappointed, on the other hand, I'm sure they said this is an opportunity that if everyone sees what happens to Denver, we'll have complete compliance moving forward. And I want to make one other really important point. Where was the competitiveness of the Denver Bronco defense? That Bronco defense played great against a good Miami team the week before, and what they should have said is, hey, we're playing a backup quarterback. We're playing Taysom Hill. And if the Saints can't score, this game will be 0-0. So let's put our foot in the ground. We know there was a mistake man on the other side, but what do we stand for as a Bronco defense? And to me, that was massively disappointing, and that was a great example of human nature. They went in the game expecting to lose, and that's exactly what happened.
Mike, should that game have been postponed? Should they have moved it, postponed it?
You know, Key, it's interesting. I went back and forth. Originally, I said yes because, look, you're going to a game where unless something weird happens, it's going to be really hard for one team to win. And really, Green Bay, Tampa Bay, those are the teams that are most affected by this. Denver's probably out of the playoffs, but New Orleans is competing with all those other teams, and the Saints or Green Bay may get that 1 seed, and there's only one team that gets a bye, so is it really fair to them? But again, on the other hand, if I'm Roger Goodell and I'm sitting back and saying, here were the rules, here were the protocols, you made the mistake, I didn't, doesn't it send the right message for the next 2 months that you have to be compliant? And I think the league in some ways saw this as an opportunity where we saw the league have flexibility with the Pittsburgh-Baltimore game that's been postponed twice. So I think in the end, the league got it right. And I think Vic Fangio, to his credit, got it right, which is, hey, Drew Lock, you want to be this multi-million-dollar leader, you want to be the face of the franchise, do the little things right.
When you look at it, some teams around the league, Philadelphia Eagles, for instance, had a quarterback that they kind of kept on the couch at home and paid money to. The Buffalo Bills have a quarterback in a similar situation. So the other teams around the league kind of adopt that same situation?
Absolutely. And I think what you can do now with technology is to say this quarterback will go to all the Zoom meetings. You're going to have a strength and conditioning coach closely monitor their condition, because I think that's one aspect of the story that people didn't realize, which was like, hey, can you sign somebody off the streets and just plug them in. You don't even know if they're in condition. So I think that's something we're going to see more teams do this week in terms of sign a player, make sure they're in the right condition, have them go to the meeting so at least they can function in a game. So, Kendall Hilton, while it was a great story on the one hand, on the other hand, he had no chance to be successful because he didn't even have the reps in terms of a walkthrough on a Friday and a Saturday. They just had to put him in there. So I think we're going to see more teams do that over the next month.
No, that is correct. I was telling the guys here, I believe, and you could correct me because you were with me, I believe in 99, we lost a couple quarterbacks, including Vinny Testaverde, in the week of. I had to be the emergency quarterback, so I got a chance to see some things just in case I would have had to play. I was at practice. I was a part of the situation where this kid didn't really get a chance to do that.